back to episode 49. It is my final day here in Seattle at the Hotel Motel Quality Inn. I'm playing one last session over at Fortune Poker tonight, which is supposed to be the nicest room in Seattle. And I'm going to try to get unstuck. I'm down about $1,000 US here during my Seattle trip. So it's like 2 buy-ins at 3.5 or a few buy-ins at 1.3. So I'll see you guys in the hands. Alright guys, welcome to Fortune Poker. This is the most recommended poker room in Seattle. The cutoff is raised to $20 over a limp. Button has called, and I think I can defend here. Queen Jack offsuit. The under the gun limper, like I have rarely seen limp re-raises, so I'm not too worried about that. The under the gun player also calls. We're 4 ways to a flop of Queen 8-6 2 spades. It's pretty good. Checks to the limper who leads out for 10 into 80. Cutoff now raises to 40, which is less than half pot. And button folds, and I'm going to make the call here. And under the gun, who bet out for 10, also folds. Okay, off to the turn, which is the 6 of hearts. Looks pretty good. I check it over, and he fires out a bet of 100. Not going anywhere top pair just yet. And we take a river, which is pretty nice. The Jack of diamonds, so now we're ahead of King, Queen, and Ace, Queen. Check it over to him, and he now fires out a bet of 200. Still pretty small. It's like half pot, so I'm not that worried. I think I'm just going to call it off here and expect to lose against kings and aces sometimes. So I toss in the call, and my opponent shows the 10-9 offsuit. Pretty bad start to the session. On to the next hand. By the way, this is 3-5, which with the conversion rate is like 4-7. So this is the highest stakes I've ever played. Pretty cool. I raise Ace-King off up to 25 in the hijack over a limp, and we get a caller from the small blind as well as the original limper. So 3 ways to a flop of 7-6-3 rainbow. Small blind who loves his tiny leads out for 20. Under the gun folds, and for quarter pot, we can't go anywhere. So I make the call and off to a turn, which is the 3 of diamonds. Now he leads out again for 25. Just milking us at this point. We still can't fold, so I make the call. We're off to a river, which is the deuce of clubs. Fires out a bet of 60. We're obviously not calling this. He got maximum value from our ace-king. And we're going to move along. Picking up a real hand here. We got pocket aces under the gun. I raised it up to $15. And we only get 2 callers in the low jack as well as the big blind. So 3 ways to a flop of ace-king 9-2 clubs. Looks pretty good. Checks to me. I start with a small bet of 15. Low jack calls and button gets out the way. Off to the turn, which is the jack of hearts. Still looks pretty good. We only lose to queen 10. And I want to get it all in. Looks like we're about 5 SPR, so I should have bet around 100 here. Maybe a little bit less, but I bet only 50. I think he might have been shorter. I can't remember what my thinking was here, but I bet 50. And he doesn't think long before folding. No value for us. It's quite tough to go bet in these games and get paid. Maybe gotta start bluffing more. In this hand, we are playing a bomb pot. It is $25 per person, and we are 7 ways to the flop of 7-6-4 2 clubs. I've got 10-8, the 10 of spades and the 8 of clubs. When it checks to me, I thought the pot was around 200, but it's only 175, and I've got about 275, so double gutter, I am just going to go for it. I ship it all in, and hijack folds, cutoff folds, button folds, small blind, big blind folds, and so does the under the gun player. So we get that one through and pick up a pretty sweet $150. Nice. Okay, back to normal hold'em. Under the gun plus 2 is raised to 15. I flat the 7s in the hijack. It's not a very aggressive game pre-flop, so don't mind having some flats mid-position here. Big blind also calls, so we're 3 ways to a flop of jack 4-3 2 clubs. Big blind now leads for $10. Loves his small leads. Under the gun now calls, and with 7s, definitely want to raise for value, especially against the small sizing. Under the gun would raise if he had a jack. Big blind doesn't have a jack for this sizing, so I'm going to raise up for some value, a little bit of protection. I make it 50. Big blind calls, and under the gun folds. Off to the turn, which is the 10 of spades. Checks to me. I'm just going to check this one back and try to get to showdown now. Off to a river, which is the ace of diamonds. Once again, my opponent checks it, and I'm very happy to check this one behind. My opponent had the king 10 of clubs for the flush draw. Turn second pair. That one's not going to go our way. The under the gun straddle is live for 10. Low jack has called the 10, and I've got pocket jacks in the big blind. I raise things up to 50. Under the gun folds, and low jack makes the call. So we are heads up to a flop of ace jack 8 2 clubs.
Always sweet flop and middle set, so I'm going to start with a small bet of 35. My opponent calls. Off to the turn, which is the 4 of hearts. Beautiful card. SPR is slightly over 2, so I want to bet about 60% here to get it all in on the river. Around 120 would be good. Bet 125, nice. And unfortunately, low jack folds, so... Same guy we flopped a set against with a set of aces, set of jacks, just can't get paid, unfortunately, but happy to pick up this pot. Picking up pocket kings here. I raised things up to $20 under the gun. I think someone had posted 5 or something, but we end up going 5 ways to a flop, which is not what you want to see with kings. The flop comes down 10, 8, 6, 2 hearts. Just going to check this one over, try and play some pot control here. And it checks all the way through. Turn is the 8 of spades. Now big blind leads out for 55. I'm just going to call here. Don't want to get too crazy. Low jack folds, and now cutoff raises to 170. Button folds. And if big blind folds, we'll definitely call. But once the big blind calls the 170, I think we're just done with the hand at this point. It's very unlikely we're good here, and we're only drawn to 2 more outs. So I make the fold. River's a 6 of spades. Big blind checks, cutoff bets the cap 300, and big blind folds. The under the gun straddle is live. It folds around to the hijack, who raises it up to 30, and I defend on the button with pocket 7s. We go heads up to a flop, which is not great. Queen 10, 9, 2 spades. Hijack checks it over. I'm just going to check this one back. We go to a turn of the 4 of hearts. My opponent now fires out for half pot, 35, and this should just be a fold, but players here are just so aggressive when you show any sign of weakness. If you check, like, they will bet. So, yeah, I just want to see what's going on here, because I'm folding a lot, like, way more than I'm used to. So I make the call. We're off to a river, which is the 3 of diamonds. Opponent now fires out another bet of 45. It's really small. It's 1/3 pot, so I just want to see what's up. I make the call, and he shows the 10-8 of clubs for a very well-played flop middle pair. Max value. Yeah, I just got completely owned that hand. Alright, in this hand, the under the gun player has raised up to 20. Low jack and hijack have called. I've got 9-7 suited in the cutoff, and I make a pretty speculative call, knowing that very few people are going to 3-bet behind. We actually end up going 6 ways to a flop of jack 9-7, 2 spades. Flop bottom 2. Big blind now leads out for 40. Loves his tiny little leads. That's 1/3. Under the gun calls, low jack folds, hijack folds, and when it's on me, definitely want to raise, definitely want to get it in here. Lots of bad action killing turns, so I make it 200. Button folds, and now big blind makes the call. Under the gun also folds, so we are heads up to the turn, looking for a blank. It is the 3 of clubs. Pretty much about as blank as it gets. He checks it over. Just going to ship it all in here. Doesn't think for too long, and calls. So we're looking for a blank river, no jack. River is the deuce of hearts. Beautiful blank, I show, and it is good. Big pot coming our way. The under the gun straddle is live at $10. The player next has raised it up to 20. Cutoff is called, and I have ace jack off in the small blind. Definitely going to want to squeeze versus these sizing, so I size up to about 110 here, trying to get all in with under the gun +2. Big blind folds, straddler folds, and now the under the gun +2 player just calls, which invites cutoff to also just call. So we are 3 ways out of position with ace jack. A little bit of a disaster. So the flop comes ace, 9, 2 diamonds. I'm just going to check here, give my opponents as much rope as they can. I check it over. Fortunately, under the gun checks, but now cutoff fires out for $95. Really small bet here, less than 1/3, so just going to call, keep his range wide, and the under the gun player moves all in. Off to a turn, which is the 7 of hearts. I check it over, and cutoff checks behind. River is the queen of spades. Really nice run out, makes ace queen less likely. Pocket queens do beat us, but I'm not worried about that. I should probably be leading here for like 150, but I just don't think cutoff has anything. And I'm hoping he doesn't understand dry side pots and does try to bluff into it, because I've seen that quite a bit on this trip. So I check it over to him. Unfortunately, he just checks it behind, and we are most likely good here. Back to show, and it is good. That's another big pot coming our way. Moving things along, we're looking down at a hijack limp to 5, and then button raises only to 15. This is 3x over a limper. Doesn't seem that strong, so I re-raise my queen jack suited to 60 in the small blind. Big blind now folds. Now the limper calls, and button folds. So not what I was expecting, but all right. Flop's pretty good though. It's 10-5-5 with a heart. So I start with a small bet of 60. It's meant to be 45, but it's actually a hard betting line here at Fortune. I asked at Caribbean and they said it was a soft betting line, so I assumed it was a soft. Going forward, I'm just going to assume all betting lines are hard and cut my chips before I bet them. So he makes me put out 60, and now the hijack makes the call. Off to a turn, which is the 10 of hearts. Pretty nice. We pick up a flush draw, but it is a double paired board. However, versus this opponent, his range is just so wide that I'm like 90% sure my queen and jack outs are still good, and almost all of my flush outs are good. Unless, you know, if he's got a pair of pocket sixes or something, then I lose one out, but I'm pretty sure I can just keep bluffing away here against this opponent. So I fire out for 115, setting up for a river shove, but doesn't come to that. My opponent tanks for quite a while, but does find the fold. Yeah, I'm making a lot more bluffs here that really shouldn't be bluffs, but they're working out because people just don't like calling down here. We got ourselves another bomb pot. I look down at ace of clubs, 3 of diamonds, not my favorite hand, until the flop comes down 4, 5, 6, all clubs. We've got an overcard, bottom end of the open ender, as well as a nut flush draw, so I'm going to lead out here for 75. Player to my left calls, and low jack also makes the call. So we are 3 ways to a turn. It's pretty bad. It's a 6 of spades pairing the top card. I check it over, and now under the gun fires out for 200. Low jack folds, and for that price, I can't go anywhere with my hand. Just hoping we're not already drawing dead. So I toss in the call, off to a river, which is the jack of clubs. We make the nut flush. I check it over. My opponent quickly checks behind, so we're probably good. I show, and indeed, we do beat the 7 deuce of clubs. He flopped the flush and is blocking our straight outs, which are dead. But yeah, nice to suck out there and win a pretty big bomb pot. Alright, I'm playing my last few free hands before I rack up and leave, and I pick up pocket 4s and under the gun +2. Raise things up to $30. We go pretty multi-way to the flop, 4 ways, but it's nice. It's 10-4 deuce rainbow. We flop middle set on a very dry board, but I'm still going to bet this out, so I bet 40. Hijack comes along and both other players fold. Off to the turn, which isn't great. It's a king. My opponent could be a little bit worried about this card if he's got, you know, ace 10 or something, but I'm going to keep trying to get some value. I size up to 160. Opponent thinks for quite a while and calls. Nice. Off to the river, which is the 7 of clubs. We still have basically the nuts here, so I'm going to bet, and I'm only allowed to bet a maximum of 300. So I fire out 300, and my opponent pretty quickly folds. But we do pick up another huge pot to end the session. Another Seattle session in the books. That was Fortune Poker. I think that's my favorite room out of the 3. So Fortune Poker, then Caribbean, then Aces. The food's really nice, service is fast, the dealers are really good. The chips are so gross though. They're so gross, but what can you do? We were in for 1,500 in that 3-5 game. It was not going well to start off. A lot of just losing pots here and there. Not really picking up much. Very card dead to begin with, but things picked up in the end, and we managed to book a solid win, cashing out for $2,526 for a $1,026 win. I think that brings us roughly close to even for Seattle. I am driving down to, for the bankroll numbers, I'm just going to put them down there. But I am going to be driving down to Portland early tomorrow morning. It's Friday night, so I might put in another session tomorrow. I'll see how tired I am from the drive. It's about 3 or 4 hours, but we'll see. Thank you so much for tuning in once again, and I'll see you guys in Portland.